Your favorite movie ever. We're talking about The Wolfman. No, it's just Wolfman. It's not The Wolfman. It's A Wolfman.
There's a maybe.
Maybe. We'll talk about it. It didn't really look like a wolfman. It looked kind of like a naked mole rat. Wolfman, I guess for context, this was probably like my first anticipated movie of 25. I'm a big monster fan. We talked about basically Dracula last time because it was Nosferatu. So we're going to continue with the monster theme. This is Blumhouse and Universal's 50th attempt at bringing the monsters back. They keep trying it, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Spoiler alert.
It didn't work.
It didn't work. It's a bad movie. It's a really bad movie. Just to set it up right at the top, it's directed by Leigh Whannell, who's done some other stuff that I really like. The Invisible Man, I don't even know, like 6 years ago now. It's been a minute. I assumed that because that movie was received really well. Also, hi, this is Alex. Alex, say hi. I feel like I just jumped in and started talking. What's going on with you?
I had zero interest in this movie and didn't want to see it. And
cool.
I don't feel like it paid off, so yeah.
It didn't. And I did want to see this movie, and it didn't pay off. So we both started in very different places and ended up in the same place. Yeah. Leigh Whannell, very talented director. He did The Invisible Man with, was it Elizabeth Moss?
Yes.
I always get her mixed up with Kate Moss. There's too many Mosses.
She's not Kate Moss.
She's not Kate Moss. She's the Scientologist.
She's the yeah.
So Invisible Man, I thought was really cool because, like, for years, you know, they've been trying to bring the monsters back, the classic monsters. They haven't really found a way to do it. Most of the time when we bring back a monster movie or we reboot it, it's a period piece. It's, you know, very costume heavy, and it's all about recapturing that time period. The Invisible Man, I thought, was really good. They took the core idea, the conceit of the terror of the original Invisible Man with Claude Rains, and they modernized it, shifted the perspective a bit, but it was still scary and effective, and they updated the science of it, and it worked. Do you remember liking that movie? I thought you liked it.
I enjoyed it. It came out a while ago.
Yeah, I want to say like 5-6 years ago. And when it happened and people liked it, there was this feeling of like, oh, cool, now Universal can actually do this monster franchise, can bring these back because they had a hit. I really didn't like this movie. I feel
like it started off with a lot of promise. And then...
Maybe.
And then they...
And then they kept going. They kept making a movie. Yeah, it was made on a reported budget of about $25 million, which honestly, it's a good-looking movie for being that cheap. And it's a Blumhouse movie, and Blumhouse sort of historically makes horror movies for as cheap as possible, which I think is the right way to do it. This will probably, I don't want to speak too soon, but this might make its money back. This might financially do well because it was made so affordably.
Maybe. Can I help you?
Oh, by the way, our Wolfman is here. Wolfman, Nova, say hi. Do you feel that wolf culture was represented respectfully in this? I see. Oh, my mic's wet now. $25 million, modern update, talented cast. I like everybody who's in it, even though I cannot remember a single one of their names. There's really only like 4 people in this movie. It's a very small movie.
It's the guy from Girls.
It's the guy from Girls.
He is good in this.
He is good. Yeah. I mean, he's got a lot to do, and we talked about it a little bit last night when we walked out, is like he's got a physical performance, right? He's doing the Wolfman thing. Regardless of the absolutely terrible script that all of them have to deal with, it's so bad, and we're going to get to that in a minute.
Who wrote it?
I think Leigh Whannell, unfortunately. Sorry. But he still has like the performance of turning into a wolfman, so you can sort of see his acting chops. What's her name who plays the wife in this? I don't remember her name off the top of my head. She's playing the Silver Surfer.
Julia something.
Yeah, she's playing the Silver Surfer in the upcoming Fantastic Four. She's very talented. The script is so bad it makes her look like she's doing a bad job, but it's not her. It's just a terribly written movie.
They just give her like maybe 10 lines total in the movie, and so it's just like, yeah, is that what you think?
Yeah, and like there's no consistency in like what her deal is. Like the movie starts and she just kind of hates her husband, and you don't know why. He seems like a good guy, and then at a point in the movie, she just starts really caring about him, and you don't know why. And then at the end of the movie, she fucking doesn't care about him at all. I won't spoil it, but
I feel like it's very hard to talk about this movie without spoilers.
I mean, for clarification, like there will be light spoilers and stuff, but I don't necessarily think that matters because I don't recommend the movie. Leigh Whannell in the past, he did a movie called Upgrade, which is a really great low budget kind of action verging on thriller territory. Really fun. I believe it was shot on iPhone, or a bit of it was shot on iPhone. So like these really clever camera moves. And you watch this movie and you go, oh, that's why they got him to do it. It makes sense. Like there are some moments where you're like, there were clearly some good ideas on how to shoot the werewolf transformation from that perspective.
That's like all it is.
But that's
though.
all
like,
it has.
It's just they had a really good idea.
I don't even know if it's a really good idea.
Right,
it's a fine idea.
A good idea for the wolf point of view.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh shoot.
That's it.
There has to be an entire movie around this.
Yeah, it feels like they had like 4 or 5 sequences planned, not even, maybe 3 sequences that they had really good ideas for, and then they just stretched this really thin script across all of it. The dialogue is like dumb and obvious and frustrating, and it goes in circles.
Within like the first 30 minutes, I knew what the end was going to be.
Yeah,
I knew who the Wolfman was.
Who the Wolfman was, because he's not,
he's not
the Wolfman. He's a Wolfman.
Multiple Wolfmen.
And I want to talk about, in comparison, have you seen the original The Wolfman? I don't think so. I doubt it.
I've seen Twilight and
Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf.
There you go. All right. Continuing the trend of seeing all the classics. If you haven't seen The Wolfman, I know a lot of people, it's like they've probably seen Frankenstein, they maybe have seen Dracula, but once you get into like Wolfman, Invisible Man, Creature from the Black Lagoon, you start losing general audiences. One of the things that folks don't know about that original movie is that it's an allegory for Jews escaping the Holocaust. And all of that resonance, all of that meaning has been stripped away. Too much has been stripped away. Like in The Invisible Man, I liked that they stripped away the trappings of the time period and it being from his perspective, and they made it about his wife's perspective. In this, they took the werewolf story and they stripped away everything. There's nothing left. There's no mythology. There's no, the pentagram. There's no curse. It's essentially a zombie movie.
But like, they hint at it.
They hint at it. They hint at like Native American, like a Native American version of this, because the original Wolfman takes place in Wales. If you don't know, it's about this guy returning to his home, his family's home in Wales. I believe his brother has died. He has to reconnect with his estranged father. So there's like 1% of that's in this movie, returning to a family home, the estranged father relationship. They have stripped everything else away. And like I said a second ago, if you called this something else and it was a zombie bite and not a werewolf scratch, plays out the exact same way.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And so I just feel like, what's the point?
It's also just like depressing. They're like a charming little family that's just trying to figure out their life as the 3 of them. And they're like, why don't we just ruin their life?
Their whole world is torn apart for no reason. Like there's no, the dad is a good dad who's trying his best.
And he's
got
trying to like break a cycle of
of abuse. He's got an abusive father.
Maybe not abusive, but like
it seems that way. They've hinted at it.
Can't handle being fathers, but like I don't know. It just made me so mad.
But he's got that dog in him. How could you expect him to grow? He's got that dog in him.
He's like a really good dad to this little girl, and they're like,
too bad. Too bad.
Sorry.
Sucks. Which, I mean, like a little bit of that, again, like I go back to the original Wolfman because I try to figure out where any of this came from. And like, again, it is about Kurt Siodmak, who did the original Wolfman, the Wolfman, escaped Nazi occupation and came to the United States. And the pentagram is meant to be the Star of David in that movie. The original title for Wolfman was called Destiny. And it was about this man whose destiny, his terrible destiny, was out of his own control. And so the werewolf transformation and how his community might turn against him if he shows his true nature, like that is all very resonant. And
that's very interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Backstory that
wouldn't that be good?
Was really lacking
in this Wolfman movie. Like fucking nothing. Nothing happens. I mean, something happens, but you're not gonna like it.
I also like I'm not a big horror fan, but I was like, okay, it started out like it could be spooky.
Sure.
There's a creature lurking.
A good opening, a decent opening sequence.
By the end of the movie, I was like, it's right there. It's there.
Yeah.
I'm not scared at all.
There was
Eyes wide open.
Even if you like just like basic horror, like plotting out tension building and then payoff, never. There were moments where you're like, they're building to payoff, and then it paid off, and you were like, that didn't even pay off well.
They also I feel like they tried to have a couple jump scares where
they did, and they didn't work.
I knew he was gonna be there, so like.
Yeah, it's just obvious comes to mind when talking about this movie. Circling, like there are whole scenes of dialogue that are maybe 2 minutes long but feel like they're 10 minutes long because it's characters talking in circles around each other. They're just repeating things that we already know. And then again, like if the third act like went for it, and once the werewolf came out, it was like a more enjoyable ride, I'd forgive that. It doesn't. It's a bad werewolf.
Slippery, shiny, sick man.
Yeah, I did a video on Instagram, might have done it on TikTok a couple weeks ago when the trailer for this movie came out. And they released the transformation, just the whole clip of it online 2 weeks before the movie came out. And I made a video basically saying, like, I think this is bad marketing, but I suspect that they're hiding the full werewolf transformation. They're saving it for later in the movie. Nope.
No.
That was just the werewolf transformation. They just released it, and it's bad. It's not bad, like... It's cool, like they did practical effects. You see
it's gross.
It's gross. It's very American Werewolf in London. You see the face growing, and he pops his jaw back, and like for a second, you're like, that's one of those sequences that they clearly planned and were excited about.
But then the wolf is.
He doesn't look like a werewolf.
Nova's scarier in the morning.
Nova, how do you feel about this?
There were good things.
There's always good things. Like, yeah, when we talk about a bad movie, we're just having fun. Like there was a lot of passion put into this. I'm not trying to say it's the worst thing ever. It just doesn't work.
Like there was like the suspense of like you haven't seen the Wolfman fully yet, and like you see his breath.
Yeah. And rising from like behind a wall.
Behind them, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's moments like that where I'm like, okay, there are a few points in this script where they clearly had an idea of what they were gonna do. They just never went back and filled in.
Also, I think the first like POV switch
from
like him to his wife was really cool.
But
then they kind of kept doing it, and I was just like, eh.
There's an element to this movie which is unique. Like we've seen the werewolf transformation so many times in media, and you have to wonder like, how do you bring anything new to it? And one thing they did that was kind of cool was you got to see from his perspective what's going on and how everything's changing and how his biology's changing. And so he doesn't understand English. Once they start speaking to him, he doesn't hear them. They can't understand him. He seems to be speaking. It was like hinted at that he's speaking this almost like Native American language.
And I think that would have been really.
That would have been really cool if he like. That's the thing is I like the framing of this. They took it out of Wales and they put it in in Northern Oregon in the United States. The opening text teases that this is like a Native American blood disease that gets passed on. It's the face of the wolf. But then you're like, okay, well, can we do that?
And also, it's like
can we talk about it?
They didn't have enough time. It was like
it's a 90-minute
movie where they.
Did it feel like 90 minutes? To me, it felt like 2.5 hours. Oh my God. Like just waiting for something interesting to happen, and it doesn't. There's a truck that crashes. They get chased into a house. He starts not feeling well. They fight the Wolfman. Movie's over.
They decide to go to Oregon, right? For
his dad passes away, and so he has to go home to like pack up his stuff.
As like, let's as a family go spend the summer in Oregon. And then the movie just takes place over one night.
One night.
Like the first night they're there, and it's like, well, just maybe it'd be a lot cooler, like this family that's like settling into this weird home.
Sure.
They hear things.
They're being stalked by this thing.
His transformation maybe takes longer, but no.
I thought that would have helped too, is I don't know why his I mean, I get it, because they wanted a movie where it's survive the night. But yeah, why did his transformation happen so quick so that I couldn't be built up to this big transformation? But maybe it's because the transformation isn't that big, and so if you build up to it, it just feels like
there's also a point where he like all night his look has been changing, and so he looks more
very
and more
gradually
throughout the night. And, like, there's a point where he goes outside, transforms a little bit more.
Just a little.
And then his wife sees him through the window, and she's, like, terrified. And I'm like, girl, he didn't look much different 10 minutes ago.
That's what I was talking about, is, like, her love for her husband, like, goes on a dime. Yeah. She does not like him. She's, like, about to leave him at the beginning of this movie. Halfway through the film, she's just like, I love you.
You're my best friend. I love you so much. You're my best friend.
And then at the end...
Meanwhile, he's a wolf who can't understand
her. He doesn't understand a word she's saying. And then she sees him through the window in that moment you're talking about, and in 1 second, she's like, that's a monster. Kill that bitch. And it's just, I don't know.
He also, like, as this, like, wolf person, almost wolf man... throughout the whole night.
I like that you're representing wolf people and not just wolf men. It's 2025. All right.
Get it right. He spends the whole night during this transformation, like, protecting his family.
Yes.
And then she sees him get a little uglier, and he reaches for his daughter, and she's like, fuck you.
Hate it.
Just stabs him. Like,
hate it. And, you know, you can go back to the monster movies, right? It's about these misunderstood creatures, Frankenstein with the little girl, right? That, like, it's a lot of, like, the village's reaction to the appearance of the creature. So, like, sure, that man has done nothing. He never attacked the family. At one point...
He had just saved them from a different
wolf. Just saved them from a different wolf man, and then she's like, I don't trust you. He has that animal instinct. He wants to protect his wife and his daughter, but they take it as him attacking them. It doesn't play. In Invisible Man, like, that's her husband, and he comes home in that invisible suit and beats the out of her. Mm-hmm. And, like, you feel scared. You feel like at any moment, if someone's not watching her, he might come in and kill her. In this movie, you're like, he loves them. He loves them. Just let him cuddle his daughter and be a gross little wolf man, and he's fine.
It's just so sad. It's like, this man doesn't deserve it. This family doesn't deserve it. Like,
no. So I think at the end of the day, it just is a movie that got greenlit on the conceit of a talented filmmaker, you know, shooting a story about the Wolfman where you maybe get to see a bit more from behind his eyes. The script is so bad that I the way that we rank movies here is we typically say, would you recommend people skip it, wait to stream it, or go see it in a theater?
Skip it.
Sorry.
I just, like, I feel bad because it's clear they, like, were trying to do something, but it's just not good. And also, like, usually we walk out of a movie and, like, sometimes we hear an opinion. We walked out of that movie and everyone
was saying the same thing.
God, what did we just watch?
I never expect general audiences to be talking about the script at the end of a movie. We stood up and the guy next to me was like, that was fucking awful. Like, that script was terrible.
Made no sense.
I don't know if you heard me laugh, but as we were walking out, we walked by this couple, and this girl turns to her boyfriend, and she goes, what did you think? And he goes, it was very unique. And she goes, oh, okay, I didn't like it. And he goes, unique doesn't mean good. Which also, it's not unique. There's nothing original about it other than that, like, perspective thing, which doesn't play super well because when you're seeing through his eyes, it looks like a 2001 iMovie filter. Like, everything's, like, oversaturated and glowing. And their eyes are glowing, and you can see their veins and their faces.
At one point, his wife and daughter just look like little creepy cartoon characters. And I was like, what?
So, I'm trying to think if I have anything else to say about it. I don't think I do. I was let down in a big way. It makes sense. It's the middle of January. The marketing for this was pretty weak. It feels like they just kind of wanted to dump it. I don't know. Maybe I don't work for Universal. Maybe they love this movie and they think it's going to make $1 billion. I think at a $25 million budget, this will make its money back.
Yeah.
And I don't think this will put the nail in the coffin for the Universal bringing the monsters back thing. But I think it puts them a little bit closer to putting the nail in the coffin.
Yeah. What's the next one?
They have a couple coming up. They've sort of, a few years ago, they said, we're going to do this dark universe. We're going to bring all the monsters back. It's going to be connected. They've stepped away from that idea now. So they've got like a few different monster movies coming out that aren't necessarily connected, but could be. This movie, if they wanted to in 5-10 years, if they wanted to go, oh yeah, that takes place in the same world as The Invisible Man and the Tom Cruise Mummy, they could do that. I'm not saying they're going to or they should. They feel like they exist in the same world. I mean, it's the same director, so. But this isn't the monster universe that I want. If we're going to do this and do like an Avengers, an MCU of horror movies, I don't want this. I want a Wolfman. All right, spoiler warning for Alex's opinions because I want to hear them.
He dies at the end, so like.
He dies. The Wolfman has to die.
Does he though? Like, he has one night as being Wolfman. Like, maybe just let him go live off in the forest. And
I was
figure out how to
thinking he
be
was
the
gonna.
Wolfman,
I was
like-
thinking he was gonna run off into the woods, and they were gonna let
Yeah.
him go be a wolfman.
But no, they're like,
She-
you watch this whole saga,
wife
and
just
then he
kills
just dies.
His wife shoots him point blank, and it's this moment
Also,
where
there's this moment where
the daughter is more aware of what's going on than the wife. She
she's
looks
like,
at him
he
and she
wants
goes,
to die.
the daughter just goes, he just wants this to be over. And the wife won't shoot him, and so he basically forces her hand.
Yeah.
He like charges at them so that she'll have to kill him. But if he's cognizant enough to know that he has to do that to get himself killed, run off into the woods, man.
Try to survive. I don't know.
Oh, we didn't talk about, he gnaws his own leg off. So good. There are like 2 moments in this movie where I'm like, that, like, why couldn't we do that? He's the scratch where he gets his infection. She uncovers the bandage at one point, and it's like festering and rotten.
Disgusting.
And like a dog, I've seen this dog do it. He just starts gnawing at his own injury,
'Cause
like
you don't know any better.
scratching at it and chewing on it. And you're like, oh, okay, that's really cool. They had these ideas
Yeah.
of what does a man turning into a dog look like, and that was cool. And then later on, he gets his foot caught in a bear trap, and he gnaws off his own leg.
He also, like, you watch him use his hands to try and pull it off, and I'm like, you don't want to try a little bit more before you
Yeah, he
chew
barely
your leg
tried.
off?
But he's a wolf. And isn't that the whole thing, that a wolf will chew its own leg off to get out of...
Would you do that?
Any final thoughts on 2025's Wolfman? Don't you dare call it The Wolfman. I would rather watch the reboot. I think it was 2012. You remember it had Anthony Hopkins and Emily Blunt, and was it Benicio del Toro? I think it was.
No.
It wasn't received well at the time. I think it's a Joe Johnston movie. He did Captain America. I would rather watch that than this, and that's a bad movie.
I'll just stick to my Jacob and Twilight.
You'll stick to your
Yeah.
Hey, can't blame you. I wish I had a better Wolfman movie to show you, but I don't. So skip it. Wait to stream it or go to
Skip.
theaters. Yeah, I'm gonna say skip it. If you're a monster person, you're gonna want to see it
Sure.
for interest. But I would wait to stream. There's nothing
just
about
don't
this.
watch it.
There's nothing about this that you need urgency to go see it. You're not missing out. It's a shame.
Sorry.
I think that's about it. That's all I've got. Is that all you got?
That's all I got.
Let's wrap it up. Our next movie that we're covering is Captain America: Brave New World. That's coming up in just about a month here. I think it comes out Valentine's weekend, so we're going to talk about it that weekend. Are you looking forward to Captain America 4? Very different. We did
yes
2
and
horror movies
no.
back to back, and now we're doing a Marvel
Like,
movie.
I'm excited for him to get his Captain America movie.
Yeah. Mackie?
Do I think it looks great? No.
Yeah, I think it looks a little messy. I think it looks like they've got a few too many cooks in the kitchen on that one. I'm optimistic.
I want to see Harrison Ford as the Big Red Hulk.
I like Mackie as Captain America. We'll just hope for the best. But yeah, we'll be back to talk about that in a few weeks.
Peace.